What's up? I I want to warn you guys. This is not going to be a good one. This stream is for such a small audience. I can guarantee. Like, for the BB sickos, yes, but you have to be fan. It's not just Big Brother you have to be a fan of. It's not Roblox. Nope. 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 Did you listen to 4 hour Dr. Will? Did it really go for 4 hours? I saw it was like 2 hours and it was still going. It's 4 hours? Did they say anything? What is there to say? I don't know. I will say Dr. Will's killing it on Dondi. So fun. Survivor Traders BB challenge. It's all silly stuff. Okay. Look, I low-key hope this stream has like 7 viewers. Because I legitimately sat at this computer for hours. And I kept trying to think of different stream concepts. And I landed on one, and then I rejected it because I'm like, this is the stupidest fucking idea ever. And then I didn't think of something better, and I was like, you know what? I want to do it. This is basically for my fun. I'm excited. I'm glad. I'd prefer you to be excited than not excited. I gotta pull up chat because I had to do a ton of research and wrote a long script. A very long script, to be honest. Let me see how many pages it is. I have to make it pages format. I'm telling you, there was about to be some very serious... I wanted to talk about a very serious topic today. And then I couldn't figure out a serious topic that I had anything, like, unique and new to say. So we landed on a very stupid topic. But it allows me to talk about somewhat, I don't know. How do I make it into pages format? Switch to pages format. Okay, let's see. How many pages is the script? So it's like 5 pages, 12 font, single spaced with like no margins. Okay. Let me add a title slide so I can have us wait on something. I also hear America listening to stream in their room next door, which is unsettling because this was supposed to be just for the boys, you know. But you know, it'll have to do. All right, so don't judge the title slide too much, Cap. I beg. All right. So here's the gist, Cap. It's not really for the boys. It is kind of for the boys if you think about it. Let's do this. So, it's probably kind of hard to unpack exactly what this means. And it's not really what you think. It's not so much me just saying how would each president do in Big Brother. It's more like who is each president's closest Big Brother analog. Are you doing all 44 of them? I was going to, and I don't have time because I did too much. I have too much information about the first 10. So I just did the first 10 today. I don't think it'll be a continuous series. If there's a massive demand for the following presidents, I could do it, but I was unable to do all of them. I thought it was too much work. You cannot just stop at 10. VP's next. Yeah, that's a good idea. Surely Raven Walton is one. I did have a comparison for Raven Walton, but I'll save it. It was not in the first 10. Initially, I drafted who each's comparison would be, and then I did research as to why. And I did have someone as Raven. Raven's easy. It's just like, a delusional kind of president. So I'm a history guy. I love history. And the way I'm kind of framing this stream is it's allowing me to educate you all through a language that you all can understand. Right? Now, if any of you are able to correctly predict the upcoming president I'm going to say in their comparison, gold star. I'd actually have a tremendous amount of respect for you. So this is not going to be this stream is going to be as long as it takes for me to finish this presentation. I don't anticipate it's going to be super long because ultimately there's only so much I can say about these comparisons. I don't think I'm going to have like a ton of like chat back and forth about it. I've got my chat down on my phone, which is why I'm looking down. I've got my script over the right and the presentation to the left. Okay. Well, do you guys just want to get into it? Who do you guys have as the first president? You guys know? Trivia question. Trivia question. Washington. Oh, good job, guys. Really good. Now, even easier question. Which Big Brother player most mirrors George Washington's presidency? Washington is Will or Dan. I played around with the Dr. Will comparison just because they're the pioneers. I thought about the Eddie comparison. It's not just about being first. George Washington and Dr. Will could not have more different personalities. What I landed on is Hardy. Trying to think of what to do with my camera. I think it's actually probably best to be here the whole time. Yeah, I think this is probably best. Okay. So, here we go. So George Washington was a very domineering president, both in his physical presence and his leadership style. Right? He's a fucking massive dude. First of all, obviously he had a military background, and it kind of mimics the way that Hardy was kind of running the Big Brother 2 house. Obviously, there's Hardy and Nicole, but Hardy was the front-facing, physically imposing presence that was kind of running everything. And I think what's important about these two is Washington, of course, famous for being the first president, famous for really shaping what the presidency was. Hardy basically built the archetype of the guy running the house. And there's been a lot of Hardys after George Washington. Hardy obviously was very successful in competitions, which I don't think is like a direct mirror to, Washington's military successes. But obviously that military success is what propelled George Washington to his leadership position. Hardy's competition success is what propelled him to his domineering strategic positioning in the Big Brother house. Did Washington dye his hair black? Did not. That is an interesting comparison. I did not weigh that one, but it is interesting. Both Hardy and George Washington were pioneers in defining what leadership meant for Washington in the presidency, for Hardy in Big Brother. They were both kind of revered by their peers. Obviously, I think Washington had a more successful run, but if it was like an election, I think Hardy probably wins Big Brother 2 a lot of times, right? He's probably the biggest jury threat on the board. So it just so happens the Big Brother format doesn't lend itself to like let's be real, Washington probably peaks at 4. unless he just goes on a comp run, which was a little bit harder in Big Brother 2. Their leadership, characterized by strength, confidence. They were willing to take charge. They were very willing leaders. And I think this made them both, real figures to be reckoned with in their, respective arenas. Any questions about this comparison? I think this is a very solid one. I think this is a very, very reasonable one. I will say one of my favorite comparisons is the second comparison, but I think this is a nice intro into what this stream is. You'll accept it. Washington didn't have wooden teeth either. He had ivory teeth. That is a myth. It is true. You explained it well. Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys like it. I honestly get it. Good. Well, here's my number 2. Now, this one, on its surface, perhaps, is less obvious. But I think I nailed this one. I want you guys to let me cook. I think I legitimately nailed this one. Okay. So, of course, the comparison for the second president, John Adams, I have chosen Janelle Pierzina of BB 6, 7, 14, and 22. Here's the big summary comparing the two. Adams was a fiercely independent and principled guy, much like Janelle. Both had extremely strong personalities, and they have a willingness to stand their ground, even when standing their ground makes them a massive target and massively unpopular to the rest of the people in their respective arenas. Let's dive into Adams a little bit. So this is a bit of a history lesson. Some of you guys should know this, but if you don't, it's okay. This is where you end up knowing it. So John Adams spearheaded the Alien and Sedition Acts, if you don't know what that is. It was this series of acts aimed at strengthening national security during tensions with France. We had tension with France because France helped us during the Revolution, and then we weren't helping them during the French Revolution. They were pissed. Kind of understandably so, but whatever. So Adams put in these acts that allowed the government to detain, deport citizens, obviously oddly reminiscent of what's happening now, who they deemed dangerous, and they criminalized criticism of the government. It's all insane, kind of semi-fascist stuff. Now, I don't think Janelle's a fascist. The comparisons are, they're more metaphorical, right? But now, obviously, infringing on, free expression, free speech, civil liberties in this way made John Adams a massive target. And he basically had no shot at re-election. If you guys like Hamilton, the election of 1800 between Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr, it's kind of crazy that Adams wasn't even in the fucking election. He had no shot. Now, Janelle. Let's go to Big Brother 22. I think a lot of people remember, oh my God, it was just Cody and the committee and his pregame alliances. Cody wanted to work with Janelle. Cody was down. And despite Cody repeatedly going to Janelle, going to Kaser, being like, hey, we could actually make this work, Janelle stood on business and was like, I don't want to work with Cody. Fuck Cody. Fuck Derek. I want to save Keisha on the block. Do I actually want to save Keisha? I don't really know. But I want to be on my own island doing some crazy shit. Janelle did not want to work with Nicole or Cody. Yeah. So Janelle took this pretty insane stance, defended it with all of her might, and ultimately it did not pan out for her. It was a bad call. And that's kind of Janelle's story in all of her Big Brother seasons. She had competitions to bail her out in 6 and 7, but 14 and 22, very much Janelle was dying on hills that she could not die on. So John Adams and Janelle Pierzina obviously don't have the stature similarities, perhaps, that a Washington and a Hardy have, but they are both extremely fiery personalities. They have extremely strong views and perspectives, and they're willing to stand on those views and perspectives despite how unpopular they might be. Which begs the question, have I convinced you guys? John Adams is Janelle Pierzina. Why is Locke's face blurred? It's just the reflection of the light. You ate that? Adams didn't veto any bills, whereas Janelle did veto some noms, though. It's a very interesting one. Wait, so would that make, Like Joe Biden jag. Clip this and send it to Jag. Is Joe Biden jag because of the amount of vetoes used? This is interesting. Okay. All right. We're getting somewhere. All right, we're going to save that thought for when I get to the more modern presidents. But I got that one down. Okay. Does anyone have any Thomas Jefferson predictions? Because I think this is a very strong one. I've got some specific notes about specific game moves and presidential maneuverings and happenings. Jefferson, known for his intelligence and writing ability. He's an excellent writer, for sure. Someone who's racist as fuck. Look, if we took that as like the defining characteristics of these presidents, which I think is fair, they're all very racist for the most part, it'd be a much less fun exercise. Like, just keep that in mind. Let's see, someone says Jace, Eric Stein, Hayden. Okay. Someone guessed it. Plout. Congratulations. Thomas Jefferson is Derek Levasseur. There we go. Someone got it. Boo, boo. Why? Because they both look fly as hell. End of story. That's all I got. So, I'm comparing the third president, the dude from Monticello, David Diggs, Thomas Jefferson, to the Big Brother 16 winner and the current, Brittany Haynes op, Derek Levasseur. It's the same pick. Jefferson was a brilliant strategist who preferred to work behind the scenes, much like Derek. Both are master manipulators who excel at controlling their respective games, Jefferson politics and Derek Big Brother, without drawing too much attention towards themselves. Let's dive into that. So Jefferson was responsible for the Louisiana Purchase, which is an insane thing that he did. It literally, doubled the size of the country, tripled the size of the country. It was wild. He negotiated with France for the Louisiana Purchase through, Monroe and Livingston, to acquire the territory for $15 million, which was a lot more money in, the 1800s, but it still was not that much for that amount of space. And this is all despite Jefferson lacking the constitutional authority to do it. There's nothing in the Constitution that says the president could just buy countries. But importantly, because of that fact, Jefferson was forced to keep these negotiations under wraps. Thank you, Anonymous, for gifting Plout. That's what you get when you correctly predict one of these comparisons. Congrats. He had to keep these negotiations under wraps and the whole purchase under wraps because there's a lot of constitutional questions that are going to be raised. A lot of people already had questions about Jefferson trying to okay, let's back up. They're Federalists, they're Democratic Republicans. Jefferson's a Democratic Republican. And the Democratic Republicans were in favor of a much looser, weaker federal government, whereas the Federalists really wanted to hammer down. Why did they want a looser federal government? Well, because they liked slavery. Jefferson liked slavery a little bit less than the other Democratic Republicans, but he still loved slavery. He had slaves. So don't retroactively valorize Thomas Jefferson. To be clear, again, we're talking about Thomas Jefferson and not Derek Levasseur here. I'm not accusing Derek Levasseur of slavery, to be very clear. So Jefferson, as a Democratic Republican, as a guy from the South, wanted to, maintain power to the states, which meant not having a strong federal government. But the Louisiana Purchase is a strong-ass federal government move. That's like a holy fuck. So again, he's trying to keep it under wraps. Now, let's compare this to Derek. Just as Jefferson worked quietly behind the scenes with the Purchase, Derek operated behind the scenes in Big Brother. He formed the Bomb Squad, an early game alliance that had a massive role in the house that occupied a lot of space, but he always stayed in the background, allowing others, such as Devin, such as Caleb, such as Zach, such as even Cody in certain spots, to take the spotlight while he's really is pulling the strings behind the scene. And, so I think one of the most interesting moments of Derek's run you can compare to Jefferson is whenever there's these big conflicts going on in the house. The Zach eviction is a very important one, where Zach has everyone up in the HOH room and is trying to get to the bottom of it and figure things out, and Derek doesn't say a fucking word. That's Derek. That's Thomas Jefferson. Now, if Thomas Jefferson went on Traitors, maybe he would speak up. It's possible. The bomb squad was a Louisiana Purchase-sized alliance. It's a very good point. He got zero blood from the bomb squad, kind of like how Jefferson was able to watch the revolution from afar. I like that too. You guys are good at this. So, do we all agree that Thomas Jefferson and Derek Levasseur have a lot in common? How do we feel? Solid pick. Okay, good. I see it. Yeah. Now, don't worry. It's not all going to be massive characters. Massive Big Brother legends and whatever. We got some deeper cuts. Anyone have any theories for James Madison? I'm high and very lost, but this is so insane. I think it's working. There's actually no stream going on. You are just spiraling in your car. Someone says Dr. Will. We got a correct answer. Hey, bub. James Madison is Ian Terry. Now, first reason as to why James Madison's Ian Terry. He's like 5'4". I think he's the shortest president in history. And Dr. Will. Ian's a pretty short guy too. Now, a lot of their similarities, in my opinion, actually come from personality. Madison's is a quiet, intellectual dude, very headstrong, who relied on his intelligence to navigate the complexities of the presidency. They're both pretty under the radar. Madison didn't have the massive personality of an Adams or a Jefferson, or the domineering personality of Washington. He was definitely much more low key. Now, the main similarity between the two, I think, comes down to how James Madison was forced to engage with the War of 1812. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details of the War of 1812. Basically, there was this, rekindled beef with England. And James Madison, who generally is pretty conflict averse, in this moment, it was kind of like a fulcrum point for the U.S., was forced to buck up and go fully against England again, which was something that most Federalists at the time, and even Democratic Republicans, were very averse to do, because it's like, really, we're going to dive into another war? But it was something that needed to be done. Now, I know you guys are thinking it too. Isn't this very reminiscent of Ian Terry, who wanted to kind of play low-key behind the scenes, but ultimately was forced to buck up to a Mike Boogie and a Frank Udy? He did. Especially with Frank Udy continuously winning competitions. Ian had to almost act out of character in order to, further his game. This is Ian's. If you sit next to him, you lose 7-0. Yeah, Frank Udy's England. I think Frank and Mike Boogie are England in this case. So the comparison here is actually very, very simple. James Madison and Ian Terry are both short. They're both quiet, smart, intellectual dudes who, because of the circumstances of their presidency and Ian Terry's, his Big Brother house, was forced to elevate as a personality and be far more confrontational than they ever expected to be. And both of them were successful. Obviously, we did well in the War of 1812. We're still a country. And Ian Terry, ended up winning Big Brother 14. Does that make Dan France? I think it kind of makes, I don't know. Who did James Madison run against? Was it Monroe? I don't know. Madison is known as the father of the Constitution. Is there a connection there? I don't think so. I mean, maybe you could then say James Madison is Cameron Hardin because they're both daddy. Is that? I don't think that one has as much support as my comparison. Is that fun? The father of the nerd archetype? That's true. Okay. Does anybody have... This is going to be tougher. If anyone gets this one, I will mod you. It's that simple. Maybe just for a day, but I will mod you. Who's James Monroe? All right, a lot of you guys are shooters are shooting. I like that. No one has the answer. I'm gonna give it. James Monroe is Monica Bailey. Okay. All right. Our second BB2 rep. Some people got pretty close. They were going old school. Insane pull. This is a great pull. Now, again, we're keeping in mind, I don't think James Monroe would like Monica Bailey. I don't think James Monroe is a very good person. Monica seems wonderful. But let's dive into it. There's some interesting stuff here. So, we're actually going to start with Monica. Monica was a unifying presence in the Big Brother 2 house. Everyone liked Monica. Much like Monroe, who promoted the era of good feelings. If you don't know what the era of good feelings is, it was coming off the War of 1812. There was kind of a divided, unsettled state in the U.S., and James Monroe kind of went out of his way to bring everything back together. Most well-known for the Monroe Doctrine, kind of. So James Monroe's role in fostering national unity during his presidency, through the era of good feelings, it's reminiscent of how Monica was able to maintain strong social connections in BB2, despite there being pretty strong emotional rifts in the house. Obviously, you had the Bunky and Will thing was weird. The Will and Nicole thing was weird. The Krista and Nicole and Hardy thing got weird. There's a lot going on. Monica was always doing all right. Monroe sought to ease political divisions after the War of 1812. His whole thing was promoting bipartisan cooperation. He's one of those kinds of presidents. He's very, I'm a moderate. Woohoo. He went on goodwill tours, was one of the things. It literally was like a presidential... I mean, I guess they still do them on campaigns, but like this wasn't a campaign. He was president, and he would just like tour around the country being like, yo, let's do it. USA. Kind of crazy. He did this to strengthen trust among citizens. Obviously, Monica. I think basically every day when she got out of bed in the Big Brother 2 house, it was her doing her own goodwill tour. Every conversation, just making people feel good about Monica. That's why Monica, when we get to the end of the game, is the biggest jury threat by far. Both Monroe and Monica thrived, leveraging their charisma. Monroe's a very charismatic guy. And ultimately, their goal was to foster unity. I don't think Monica was as much trying to build this massive alliance to go to the... That was not her game, and that wasn't Monroe's game either. It was more so realizing a destabilized house and bringing people together. James Monroe on God 101, that would be good. I swear to God, if you do a Brandsdale after this, I'm leaving. I'll do one at the end if I do every single comparison. It'll be an 86-person tournament. Or maybe I'll make teams. All right. How do we feel? Do we like the Monica Bailey comparison? Let me blow my nose. I'll be right back. All right. What's our guess? What is our guess for John Quincy Adams? See, Alyssa, Jared Fields, Hayden, Joseph Abdon, I would love all of you guys to explain your answers to, rather than just saying Joseph Abdon. Like, what are we talking about? All right. Ronnie Talbot. My man. The only Big Brother player I met before going on the show. I guess I Zoom called with Kevin Jacobs, but that feels different. Okay. We got some BB11 talk here. Why they kind of look alike? Yes, they're definitely from the same familial line. So, there was some talk of the Monroe Doctrine in our last comparison. It's actually going to pop up now. So, Quincy Adams' approach to diplomacy, particularly in his role as Secretary of State during the Monroe administration, was kind of instrumental in formulating and putting forth the Monroe Doctrine. Now, what that was, it was basically a warning to European nations, being like, you can't just come in the U.S. You can't colonize places in the U.S. This is our place. Or in the Americas, rather. They basically, planted their flag down and say, this whole fucking space is ours, you can't be here. And he kind of brought forth as Secretary of State and then advocated for the doctrine when he was president. And it mirrors, in a lot of ways, Ronnie's gameplay in BB11. Where he tried to outmaneuver and mastermind and outstrategize his fellow house guests with strategic foresight. It's fucking Ronnie Talbot. Adams and Ronnie both relied on their kind of intellectual prowess, their deep understanding of international relations. For Ronnie, his deep understanding of Big Brother to shape the policies that would influence America or the Big Brother house's futures. Now, the key similarity between the two of them. Because right now I'm basically just saying they're both smart. Both of them had extremely lofty goals that alienated those around him. Ronnie used his strategic mind to, he would be like one of the biggest cases of HOHitis we've ever seen, basically. And he was trying to manipulate alliances, pin people against each other, and do all this shit very early in the game. And both of them faced significant pushback. Adams for being perceived as out of touch with the common citizen, Ronnie for playing too hard, too fast. Both of them kind of proved a point. Over-reliance on intellect can sometimes backfire if there's not very careful, social calibration. The Monroe Doctrine was a very bold piece of legislation. But Quincy Adams was not a very charismatic guy. He was not able to smoothly present it towards the public and get it massively popular. Not just with the public, but with also other countries. And Ronnie, his vision for the game wasn't even that bad. He just wasn't quite able to, deliver it to the other house guests in a meaningful way. Which of these Adams guys started the beer company? Oh, you're lost, hey, bub. You're lost. Who is Russell in this situation? I will say, Quincy Adams is tangent. Terrible president. I think he's an awesome historical figure. I think he's a super cool dude. If you guys have ever seen Amistad, it's starring Matthew McConaughey. It's basically the story of a group of enslaved people who commandeered their slave ship, and then they were arrested in the U.S., and then John Quincy Adams defended the person who was going to be, incarcerated. It was very cool. He was also a Supreme Court justice, I believe, John Quincy Adams. He's a very cool guy. But he was a shit president. So, to your question, who's Russell? I don't know. One of the only presidents who went back to Congress after finishing his term. Yes, true. His best work came after his president. Okay. Do we have a prediction for who's next? It's Jackson, right? This one you guys are going to get. I believe most of you guys know who I'm going to say Andrew Jackson's comparison is. I don't think it's that hard to figure out this one, to be honest. Oh. All right, people got it. Everyone's got it. Everyone's right. Andrew Jackson is Jackson Mickey. That's why we call him Andrew Jackson Mickey. So, this one's pretty clear. Andrew Jackson's presidency was marked by significant controversies, particularly through the Indian Removal Act. They wanted to, basically claim more land west in North America, and that meant brutalizing and moving Native American tribes. Forcefully relocating is probably a euphemism to use it, but really it was like a genocide. It's colloquially known as the Trail of Tears, and his battle against the National Bank was the other thing he was known for, which was a very radical idea. Basically, I think Andrew Jackson is the president who you could view most similarly to Donald Trump. They're very similar. They're super anti-institution, extremely populist, and pretty racist. That's kind of their things. Now, as bad as Mickey is, I don't think he's spearheading a genocide. But you could say his run as camp comeback, or camp director, in some ways mirrored. I'm not even going to go there. I think it's... His picks were suspect, for sure, right? So, Jackson's leadership style was very autocratic. It earned him very fervent supporters, also a lot of detractors, especially historically speaking. Mickey faced very similar criticisms in BB21. He was a domineering personality. A lot of people to this day champion Mickey's game, saying it was a very dominant win. I disagree with that. Obviously, there's a lot of racial bias that people discuss in the context of Jackson Mickey. Not just in the early boot order, which he had a lot to do with, but also just, the way he would interact with people like Kemi, people like Ovi. It wasn't good. People like David, specifically. There was a lot of public outcry about, Mickey's win. It was a very awkward finale. I think we watched it on Pluto pretty recently. I was like, fucking Christ, this is tough to watch. Both were dominant, 100%. They were domineering, dominant figures, and they were successful in their respective spheres. Jackson basically accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish. He fucking destroyed the National Bank, and he committed genocide. Jackson Mickey won Big Brother. Sheer will, aggression, and prejudice. So, that's the comparison I've got. Not as lighthearted, but I think it's a good one. I think this is the only comparison you can make. All right, next up we got Van Buren. None of you guys know shit of what Van Buren did. Be real. You guys could just guess names if you want. No one's going to guess this one, I promise. I promise no one's going to get this one. This is one where I really had to sit and stew. Whitney, you got it. No. Ryan, BB9. Vanessa, Jason. All right, well, for me, Martin Van Buren is Lane Ellenberg, the runner-up from Big Brother 12. Cory Werthberger. No, not him. I don't know who I'm going to put myself as, or if anyone. Okay. Let's talk about Lane and Martin Van Buren. Van Buren is a pragmatist, a very pragmatic guy. He had a big role, a big job to do after Andrew Jackson, because very similar to Trump, Andrew Jackson was successful in doing what he wanted to do. He got rid of the banks. But then getting rid of the banks leads to a massive economic collapse that Van Buren was now responsible for handling, which kind of happened with Trump and Biden. Not that, I think people even overstate that, where it's like the entire global economy collapsed. The U.S. economy was always going to collapse. So, this one was the Panic of 1837. It was a result of Andrew Jackson's handling of the banks. Van Buren was forced to deal with it. And the way that he managed it in a very pragmatic way is kind of similar to what Lane had to do with the brigade. Van Buren, skilled politician, was able to balance a lot of competing factions within his party. It was fucking chaos after Jackson. Now, Lane, I don't want to act like he was the mastermind of the brigade. I think, if anyone, I guess you say Enzo is that. But Lane had to deal with a Matt Hoffman turning against all of them, basically. Maybe not super directly, but it was a massive threat that he had to deal with. This kind of inter-party conflict they both had to manage, I think, is the strongest aspect linking them two together. I think Lane and Van Buren are kind of known for their adaptability. Lane being able to stretch out with Brittany. Van Buren being able to kind of, again, mend rift within his own party and reach across the aisle. It was a time where, by bipartisanship was really important because Jackson, like, stretched the two parties further apart than they had ever been before. Now, Van Buren did face a lot of criticism for the economic depression because he didn't stop it. There was obviously the Great Depression where FDR overhauled the entire U.S. economy. New Deal and all that. Van Buren didn't do that. He was like, oh, we'll be okay, guys. Let's just wait it out. And I think a lot of people would criticize Lane of, like, where was his winning path? He got to a 4-3 vote against Hayden, but let's be fucking real. 2 of those votes were sympathy votes. Lane really didn't stand a chance, and Lane, despite that, was willing to stay within the status quo. They're both strategic thinkers, but their legacies are somewhat overshadowed by the external challenges they had to face, by the bigger characters surrounding them. Van Buren, definitely overshadowed by someone like Andrew Jackson. Lane, overshadowed by Brittany. Hayden, to a certain degree. Brenchel, So, that's the comparison. I think it's actually quite a strong one. I think these two have a lot in common. Which forces me to go to number 9. This one you guys should get. William Henry Harrison is Jody Rollins. Not even going to give you guys the chance. This is one of the easiest comparisons ever. Now, if you guys don't know exactly why, you will in a second. So, he had a brief presidency. Does anybody know how brief William Henry Harrison's presidency was? Let's see. Trivia question. How brief? A month, correct. It was 31 days Harrison was president before he succumbed to his illness. He's remembered for a very bold campaign that he ran, but of course he lacked the opportunity to enact significant change. He was sick from the moment he entered office, and he left after a month dead. Jody didn't die, thank God. But her time in the Big Brother house was perhaps even more tragic than Harrison's. And she also had a bold platform that she was unable to enact. They both faced challenges that were beyond their control. Harrison's health, Jody's compatibility, and the circumstances of the coaches and Dan just picking her to be evicted. Both had truncated tenures, for Harrison in the presidency, for Jody and Big Brother. Their legacies are really defined as what could have been. They're remembered for their durations in their roles as opposed to what they were able to do in that time. So it's kind of tough. Now, I will say, Jody for president. We could have redemption for both these people with one simple act. Shoutouts, William. Shoutouts, Jody. Easy comparison. And this leads me to my final one. Going to be a quick stream, but I think, I'm not trying to overstay my welcome. This, I think, is the most off-the-wall, batshit comparison of the entire stream, and I like it. John Tyler. You guys know anything about John Tyler? You're about to. Who mirrors him in Big Brother? Someone says Drew. The only president to not be honored upon his death because he pledged loyalty to the Confederacy. Didn't really play a role in my thing. Aaron, Jeff. You guys are really clinging on to this racism thing. I clinged on to a different thing. All right. Well, you guys are all wrong. My answer is definitive. John Tyler is Natalie Martinez. You guys thought I would say Taylor? That's crazy. This one's obvious. You guys should have gotten this. Come on. Of course, John Tyler is Natalie Martinez. Now, why? I'll explain. John Tyler had a very unexpected rise to the presidency. As we previously mentioned, William Henry Harrison died 31 days into office. John Tyler, out of nowhere, is president. Whoops. There we go. Now, how is this similar to Natalie? Well, Natalie was a subservient player in Big Brother 11. That was Jesse's power structure. Boom, Jesse's gone. Jesse's gone. Now, I'd be lying if I said Natalie was thrust into the dominant power position in Big Brother 11. She wasn't. But she was forced to adapt to circumstances she was not expected to be in. Now, something notable about both John Tyler and Natalie Martinez, despite the unexpected circumstances leading to their power, they both decided to use that power and act assertively. Tyler, rather than simply being a caretaker president, which is basically saying like a president who's like, I wasn't supposed to be here, I'll just keep the status quo until the next person's elected. He fucking went for it. He's a horrible person. Let me say that. Terrible person. Natalie seems great. He tried to annex Texas, which is crazy. And it also went against what his party wanted him to do. Natalie, while I think a lot of people would give Kevin Campbell the credit, was a massive part of Jeff Schroeder's eviction. Kevin wins HOH, nominates Jeff and Michelle. Jordan's a backdoor, Jeff's evicted. Natalie played a huge role in that. And who would have thought? I think no one would be surprised if William Henry Harrison annexed Texas. That's a big dog with a big platform. No one would be surprised if Jesse took the shot at Jeff, but Natalie being the one to do it is kind of crazy. Jeff, major player in the Big Brother house, much like Texas, a major player in American politics. Both Tyler and Natalie assumed their roles of power through shocking, unexpected circumstances. Both took significant risks to assert their control, even when their moves went against the prevailing consensus of the house. Ultimately, they're both kind of looked upon in history as they probably weren't very good. John as, a horrible person. Natalie, probably a pretty horrible player. Natalie robbed from a win. A lot of Natalie defenders in chat. I love it. So, there you have it. 50 minutes wasted of all of your lives. Now, if it makes you feel any better, I wasted a lot more time. I probably wasted about 3 hours. So, did you rehearse this with America? No. The second I finished the presentation, I went live. No preparation. A lot of preparation. Or no, delivery preparation. A lot of written preparation, research preparation. Part 2 would be hilarious. I need to see who you put for James Buchanan. I'll be honest, that's who I was thinking was going to be Raven. Can you ask America when we're finding out book for book club? I will let her know that, actually. I think I know what she's going to pick, but I'll confirm with her. So look, I don't know if we're going to do this again. I doubt it. But I will say, the other version of the stream was top 10 presidents who would be good at Big Brother. Do you guys want me to give you that list quickly? I'll just give you the top people. I don't actually have the exact list on hand. I had FDR and Teddy Roosevelt as the top 2. FDR, obviously his problem is going to be comp ability, but I figured he could Jared Fields his way to the win there of having a family member who can drag him to the end with their physical ability. Clinton was an absolute top 10 guy. Trump's a top 10 guy, unfortunately. He'd probably be dragged to that point, but I think he would be pretty good. Richard Nixon would be in that Matt Hoffman spot. Barack Obama would play a solid game, probably end up in that Derek X. We all agree that Barack Obama would get the second juror curse, right? Hunger Games so Cory can join. That's right. Okay, there you go. FDR comp ability is very questionable. I hope they'd make it equitable. JFK was there too, but JFK is a little bit too, golden boy. So that'll do it. That's all I got for the stream today. It's a Saturday. I'm not trying to be on for too long. I was like, I should probably stream America's Napping. And this is the stupid shit I cooked up. So, bye. Is there anyone to raid? Is Quinn still alive? Lakers Knicks are on? Yes, I want to go watch that. Quinn's still on? Jesus. I started and finished a whole presentation. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it. Let Quinn know he was very close to being Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams was the joke, and they actually have some in common. But anyways, have fun. Bye-bye.